Hey, what is up, mortals? It is I, Davey Wavy, here with a new video for you. Welcome to Season 3, Part number 4 of What If Izuku Had a Decay Quirk. I just wanted to greet you guys by just saying sit back and relax, you're in for a treat. And so we begin. Izuku witnessed as three figures walked through the familiar purple portal. Leading the trio of villains was the familiar light blue-haired man. Izuku recognized the man as the villain he shared a quirk with. Midoriya couldn't move. His thoughts raced at 1,000,000 miles an hour. He had no idea what to do. Should he rush in and fight them? No. He had no idea what their skill set was. Should he flee and tell the pro heroes somehow? How would he contact them? While he was lost in his thoughts, two of the villains had already left through another portal, leaving just one man standing and wandering the floor. If you ignored all the burn scars, the man looked to be in his early 20s. He had black hair and purple scars covering his arms and face. His skin looked to be held together by piercings around his jaw and eyelids. Izuku thought maybe he could try to sneak up on him and subdue him. He shook his head in denial of that thought. He can't make any rash decisions with as little information as he had. Midoriya then had the idea of trying to flee the building, but that wouldn't work either. To get to the stairs, he would need to pass the scarred man. He couldn't escape from the window due to being on such a high floor. He would never survive the fall. As Izuku mentally panicked as he tried to form some kind of plan, he heard a loud voice he recognized yell just outside of the room.
Oi! Who are you?
Izuku recognized the voice as the boy with the wind quirk he had encountered at the top of the building. The scarred man looked toward the voice, and without saying a word, blue flames ignited in the scarred man's hand as he swung his arm to attack the wind boy. Izuku reacted quickly as he swung the door he was hiding behind open and ran at the scarred man to stop him. He just needed to touch him. With the control he gained over his quirk after the forest training camp, he could choose what he wanted to decay. Just one touch, and he could make his Decay Quirk decay some of the man's arm muscles. It wouldn't be enough to disfigure the villain permanently, but Izuku didn't want to permanently paralyze or kill anyone. This would be enough to stop the scarred man from attacking anyone. Midoriya kept running toward the man, reaching his hand out to touch him. The scarred man spun around with a wave of blue fire following his hand, engulfing Izuku's body in blue flames. Yoarashi reacted quickly and used his whirlwind quirk to blow away the flames before they could seriously burn the white-haired boy. In reaction to seeing his flames blown away, he kicked Midoriya in the gut, putting more distance between them.
Izuku Midoriya, your hair is different from the list we were provided with. Whatever, you're on the top of the list of people we need to kill.
Dabi swung his arm to release a blast of blue fire toward Izuku. Midoriya felt his body being pulled by the wind as he was quickly dragged toward the stairwell toward Yoarashi.
What the hell is going on? I don't think this is part of the test.
Yoarashi asked Midoriya as he dragged him using his wind quirk.
He's a villain. They infiltrated the exam site using one of their allies' portals. This is exactly like the USJ attack.
Izuku informed Yoarashi of the situation as they both fled down the stairs of the building. They both heard a loud explosion come from the upper floors as the sound of flames spread throughout the building.
That insane idiot lit the building on fire!
Yoarashi yelled out. Midoriya and Yoarashi reached the street after escaping the building. Midoriya looked back at the building and saw the entire upper half of the skyscraper was covered in blue flames. It was a terrifying sight for the two teens to witness. Out the front doors of the burning building walked out the scarred man who had set the building aflame. At that moment, Midoriya and Yoarashi knew they couldn't let this man get to any of the other students. Over the loudspeakers covering the stadium, an announcement was made to all the students. Attention all students, villains are attacking the exam site. Don't fight unless necessary. Instead, focus on finding a pro hero or finding a safe exit off the property. Dabi smirked upon hearing the announcements as he conjured a blue flame in the palm of his hand. Meanwhile, several minutes before the attack had begun, a blond boy was wandering outside the stadium. He scratched the back of his head as he continued to patrol the outside of the exam stadium. Mirio had initially planned to spend today training with One for All more, but Sir Night-Eye approached him about a task given to many of the pro-hero agencies. As a result, Sir Night-Eye's agency and many others were requested to guard the stadium where the provisional hero license exam was taking place. He was tasked to patrol the outside of the stadium and stay prepared in the case of a villain attack. Thankfully, there were plenty of other heroes patrolling the building beside him. Mirio had thought that if any villains were going to intervene with the exam site, they would need to break in from the outside. So he planned to stop them before they could even get inside. It seemed like a smart plan to him at first, until he heard the loud alarms inside the stadium blare out. Mirio recognized the alarms, meaning the absolute worst had occurred and villains had broken in. But how? Mirio thought as he ran full speed into the stadium. He activated his permeation quirk, phased through the walls, and launched himself into the center of the giant stadium where the exam was taking place. He was already familiar with the layout of the exam site since he had taken this exam just a year prior. Yet everywhere he saw, there was chaos. The city arena was burning in blue flames, and the zone closest to him looked the worst. Students were screaming from every direction, screams of pain and fear. Mirio saw injured examinees all over, even what looked like corpses. Mirio gritted his teeth. He couldn't stand to let this happen any longer. The mountain zone was crumbling to the ground. At the center of it was a blue-haired man with hands covering his entire body. Mirio rushed into the situation, keeping his eyes on everything. He witnessed as the man covered in hands placed his fingers on objects before they turned to dust. The villain reached out as he was about to grab a student taking the exam. Mirio wasn't close enough to intervene physically, so in a quick reaction, he called upon the powers of One for All. He shot out a black whip to grab the student before the villain and pull them away to safety. Mirio wanted to help the students get to safety, but suddenly he felt a sharp pain in his head before he quickly activated his permeation quirk in a swift reaction. Mirio had reacted just in time as a large Nomu's fist phased through Mirio's head. In reaction to being attacked, he strengthened his body as he punched the Nomu back and called out the familiar words of All Might. 50% Detroit Smash! Mirio cried out as the Nomu was sent flying back. Then, Mirio returned his attention to the Decay villain, in time to stop an attack by the villain trying to decay him. Shigaraki's hand phased through Mirio's body. He tried to counter the same way he had done with the Nomu, but as he began to throw a punch, the villain adjusted his other hand to try and grab Mirio's fist. Not wanting to take the risk of being decayed just for one punch on the opponent, he activated permeation and phased his fist through Shigaraki, and kicked off the ground to push himself away from the villain. Danger Sense had warned Mirio of an attack coming in from behind, so he activated the float quirk and flew over the punch. Avoiding the Nomu's attack, he flew over it and punched the second Nomu in the head from above, using One for All to strengthen himself again. The Nomu was flung, crashing into the ground, leaving a large boom echoing throughout the panicking stadium. Mirio floated higher to stand above the villains. He was visible to a large crowd of students scrambling around, trying to fight against the criminals and Nomu to escape. Mirio quickly flew down to the ground and activated permeation to phase through the floor. Shigaraki looked around frantically, looking for the blonde teen. Suddenly shooting out of the ground, Mirio flew and punched a Nomu with such force. It flew several feet before crashing into a large rock, unable to get up. Mirio disappeared back into the ground, and he repeated this process. He would pop out and take down villains and save students using his many quirks to assist him. Permeation and float to gain speed, stockpile to boost his strength, and the occasional black whip to save a student. Soon the area was clean of villains, besides Shigaraki, who stood in the center of the mess. Students fled from the stadium to safety, as Mirio stayed behind and used his ultimate move to attack Shigaraki. Mirio rushed out of the ground and threw his punch at the hand-covered villain. Phantom Menace! 50% Texas Smash! Mirio screamed as he punched Shigaraki, launching the villain at high speed into a rock. Shigaraki's blood splattered, as his bones and muscles were all destroyed.
Crap, did I go too far? I thought he could take a punch, like those weird brain creatures.
Shigaraki, barely conscious, lay slumped over a rock in immense pain. He was confused.
What's going on? Master told me I should have so much power. Yet that brat took me and my squadron down so easily. This isn't right.
Shigaraki spoke to himself out of Mirio's earshot. He fell unconscious from all the damage to his body, falling into a deep dream. Dabi released another burst of blue flames at the two students. Yoarashi used his wind to disperse the flames as he and Izuku tried to fight against the villain. Yoarashi and Izuku kept running around, avoiding the flames. Midoriya couldn't figure out a way to fight back against the flame villain. He didn't know enough about Yoarashi's wind quirk to take full advantage of a strategy. Izuku and Yoarashi kept avoiding or countering the flames with wind. They had both split up on different sides of the street. While Yoarashi wasn't that bright outside of battle, Midoriya was thankful that the Wind Boy had some strategic intelligence in a fight. With them both separated, Izuku and Yoarashi would force Dabi to separate his attention from two different traveling targets. Dabi kept releasing bursts of blue flames at the two students as they avoided. Things were looking well for the duo, as they could continue avoiding Dabi's powerful flames. Midoriya watched as Yoarashi was able to combat Dabi's flames, but they both had no way to properly fight back. Izuku couldn't get close, and Yoarashi was too occupied pushing away Dabi's flames. Izuku kept his mind going to try and find some kind of plan. He ran over to the side of a building and slapped his hand against the wall, spreading decay up the side of the wall. The building began to collapse and fall over onto the street as Izuku yelled for Yoarashi to yell to run away. Yoarashi used his whirlwind quirk to travel out of the way quickly as the giant skyscraper collapsed and fell. The rubble of the building collapses down over Dabi, seemingly crushing him. Shigaraki was left unconscious on a rock, with most of his body destroyed by Mirio's punch. His mind drifted to past memories. He felt like he was reliving his past over again. He finally remembered that fateful night. The night this curse of a quirk awakened and freed him from his father. The night he had killed his family. The memories replayed in Shigaraki's head as he could hear a second voice beside his own. You remember now. Good. You are finally ready. The voice echoed out in Shigaraki's head as something beneath the surface of his power had awakened. All of the experiments were complete, but it had taken so long for the subject to access them. Garaki had implemented All for One's quirk into Shigaraki long ago, left dormant until the day he would awaken it. As the All for One quirk manifested, Shigaraki's body regenerated, pulling itself back together. Tomura woke up on a pile of rubble, his white hair flowing through the wind.
I will not disappoint you, Master.
Drop a comment about your favorite series or suggestions. Thanks to our team for another amazing video. If you're interested in joining our team and you're 16 years of age or older, check out the link in the description. Thank you for watching till the end, and have a fantastic day.